prescribing projects. Feel free to use the chat. If we can get some time, we'll take some questions as well. Okay, if we can just kick it off then. So nationally and with the authorities' finances, things are settling down a bit. There was recently a meeting with the 10 chief executives from the National Park authorities in England with the National Park Minister, Mary Cray. As it turned out, that meeting also involved the Secretary of State, Steve Reed, who came into it, which was helpful. We were a bit surprised to see him there. We didn't know he was coming. A helpful meeting, lasted about an hour and 15 minutes. Secretary of State spent some time setting out the financial difficulties that the government finds itself dealing with. He talked about and really emphasised the need for growth, though he didn't say what kind of growth that was, i.e. sustainable growth or growth of any kind. I'm slightly worried it might be the latter. That was quite helpful. He did set out an illustration of the government's problem in the sense that he made an analogy. When the Blair government came in 97, some of you are old enough to remember that, the government increased the spending on the NHS from 4% to 6% of gross domestic product. And that wiped out the entire waiting lists that were around at that time. So from 4% to 6%. The NHS now takes up 12% of GDP and is still struggling. So growing the economy is at the absolute forefront of government thinking. Although he did say that he thought this particular time that we're going through at the moment was probably the worst period. This was pre-Trump tariffs, incidentally, but probably the worst period in that things should settle down in future. Now, they will settle down to some extent in that we'll know our settlement for 3 years hence. I'll come on to that in a moment. He did make a big distinction in government spending between revenue, bad news, and capital, better news. And there was some discussion around future funding of national parks having far more emphasis on capital being provided and less on revenue, and that does have implications for us, which again I'll come on to in a moment. But critically, he also mirrored some recent comments that we've had from DEFRA officials that, although I've said to you and said publicly and to our members that the current year, 25, the current new year that we've just gone into, 2025-26, has a significant slug of new capital for us, 1.5 million. It's one-off, 1 year capital. Sorry, we're just waiting for the fly past. And he gave an indication, which, as I say, has been quite consistent over recent weeks, that capital allocations will go into future years. And that's really important for all kinds of reasons for us. And as I say, that's an increasing message that we've had. There was a bit of time spent on the importance of national park authorities generating additional income streams, almost as if the stuff we've been doing for the past 10 years has never happened. I think we've got an issue with the new government in that the kind of memory of the previous government is not passed on. So to illustrate that, the Minister and the Secretary of State were talking about the need for us to generate new income, cut bureaucracy. This is from DEFRA, cut bureaucracy, goodness. And it was pointed out that 15 years ago, the total budget for all the national parks in England came to around £55 million. And that generated, we were then able to generate our own income, taking the total spend up to around 70 million. So 55 to 70. Now the budget's around £45 million and we're generating around 90 million in income. So there's been a fair increase in terms of the income that's been generated in national park authorities. And you'll know that more than most. You know, we've got a grant in the old year of £5 5.5 million essentially, and a total budget of 12 million. So some fantastic successes that staff have had. I don't want to labour this point, but I need to make it because it's clear that government is still looking at us to do more in that area. So this idea of the authority increasingly looking at projects, increasingly asking staff to look at funding for their own areas of work rather than having to rely on central government grant, that is going to be a continuing theme with this new government. Some areas they were talking about, incidentally, in terms of potential funding were the use of biodiversity net gain, private finance again. We've been down that road and we're still doing some work on that. Bizarrely, car parking fees and increasing the number of car parks that we have. Some mixed messages in there, I can't feel. We did, as chief exec, spend quite a bit of time just trying to tease out of government what their new vision was for the environment generally, for national parks in particular. That's not coming out at the moment. I think they are waiting to see what the results of the comprehensive spending review are for DEFRA, for national park authorities, and they will then set out a vision that mirrors those resources, I suspect. Quite a bit of discussion on potential new powers or regulations to help us to deliver our purposes. Talked about something called power of competence, which some of you will have come across. This is essentially a power that local authorities have, which enables them to do far more than what might seem to be their normal remit in order to generate funding. We tend not to get excited about that power within the Dales. We tend to do things and assume from our previous experience legally that we've got the powers to do that. But for some authorities, they're looking for more reassurance that some of the things they're getting involved in, they've actually got the power to do it. Potentially expanding the duty to cooperate on other bodies when they're operating in national parks. There's going to be a future nature bill sometime within the next 18 months, 2 years. They were asking if there's anything in the planning and infrastructure bill that's currently going through Parliament that we might want to add to assist us in our work. We did ask about whether we can get the DEFRA family, so Natural England, Forestry Commission, Environment Agency and others, to use their powers and funding to deliver in national parks first. There was some non-committal noises on that. Potentially expanding permitted development rights, not for planning, but for nature. So that was an interesting new theme. We'll be doing some further work with DEFRA on what that might mean. So I'll bring that to a future meeting when we've got a bit more flesh on those bones. And there was quite a lot of conversation around the land use framework that's currently going through government, and whether that could be something that could drive a genuine change in terms of how land is used to deliver for nature and for climate within national parks. So the summary of all that really was, this is a brave new world that we're entering and we have to get on board with it. It's the way things are going to be. Good news in terms of continuation of funding, I think, for 26-27 in relation to capital. Not so good news in relation to revenue. A big issue that came out of there was we've been saying to members here that we would expect to know the results of the government's comprehensive spending review this summer, and then we can start to plan ahead for the future as we go into the next round of budget planning and work programmes. It is true the comprehensive spending review results will be known in the summer, but only within Treasury. They will then tell departments what their allocations are for 3 years in relation to revenue and capital. But then what's happening is that information will be going into the departments and they will be spending quite some time on the business planning process before the white smoke then comes out and they tell us in national park authorities what our settlements are for the next 3 years. We were told to not expect that information until January or February next year. So it's only then that they will tell us what our settlements are for the following 3 years. That gives us a bit of a timing problem. because we're putting together our work programs and our budgets starting around October time and then running through to the end of the year. There will be some cunning plans to deal with that in future, but it needs some further discussion with members. So that's where we are with the ministerial meeting. Can I just give you an update on the definitive budget position now for 25-26 for the current year, because we've got that. We know our revenue grant is 4,800,000. That's a cut. Government have also found an additional £20,000 for each National Park Authority as a contribution towards their membership of National Parks England, the umbrella body. I think that's a bribe to get Exmoor and the Broads back into National Parks England. Some of you will be aware that they left a couple of years ago and they've now intimated that they're about to rejoin. So total revenue funding for the coming year, 4,820,000. In terms of capital, we've got 1.5 million additional capital grant, and then they've announced a new Access for All grant of about 113,000. Officers who've been involved with the Access for All scheme, which I think was a 3-year project, that's now been extended for a 4th year. That might sound like good news, but I'm a bit unhappy about how we've arrived at a figure of 113,000. Why did we only get that amount of money? So we're just making some inquiries to see what the basis of that is. So in total there, that's a capital grant of 1,680,000. So in total, the total grant we have from DEFRA, revenue and capital for this year, is 6.5 million. That's not bad, assuming that we're able to do certain things with that capital. So just very quickly on that, what we're intending to do is about 400,000 of that capital is going to be used to plug the hole in revenue. There'll be another significant sum, about 700,000, that we're going to use to pay for some capital schemes that have slid from the old year into the new year. Those are the Landcliffe Quarry Ranger Base, some SDF capital projects, and some leased vehicles. So we're gonna pay for that using this new capital, and it means that the revenue we were going to use can go back into the coffers to help us with our future financial situation. And that still leaves a significant sum that can then be allocated to new capital projects. There's a conversation going on in SMT at the moment about what they can be. Essentially, at the moment, it's either delivering the government's 30 by 30 commitments more quickly, or it's doing stuff that we intended to do in the future and kind of dragging it forward so that we can deal with it more quickly. So some of that stuff is around climate mitigation. So it's solar panels on kind of toilets at Grafton, Buckden, Stainforth, Yoredale, ground array solar panels. So it's that climate agenda. Some of it is spending capital monies on our building infrastructure. So there's some re-roofing at Malham. There's actually a full redesign potentially at Malham. Some work on the Ranger roof at DCM. And then there's some kind of battery storage proposals we've got. So anyway, there's a range of capital projects that are going to come initially before SMT and then to the Finance and Resources Committee in May. So it's looking quite decent, is 25-26. So that's where we are, I think, in terms of the current government position. I'm very conscious that there's a lot kind of gone into that. So if any of you want to chat about that later on when you give it a bit more consideration, I mean, just pick up the phone and have a word with me or drop me an email. More than happy to do that. Those plans will be set out, incidentally, in the next finance update paper to FNR in May. So if you want to see it in writing, get a hold of that paper. Okay, right. Let's move on if we can. Can I introduce Angela, who some of you will have met. She's involved in the Coast to Coast project. Those of you who know me know how important and how much weight I've put in that particular project. A, becoming a national trail. B, us actually producing or upgrading that trail to the standard of a national trail, and C, hopefully for the future, us having a really big part in how that trail is maintained into the future. Angela.
Okay, I'm just going to try and share my screen. Hopefully you can see my presentation. Is it, can everybody see it? I'm presuming you can. I haven't got any message.
It's all
Well,
good,
welcome.
Angela. All good.
Oh, good. Oh, it's always reassuring. Well, first of all, I'm going to give you a quick run through. There'll be a few of you here glad to hear that I'm not going to talk all about White Mossy Hill. I'm going to branch out onto different sections of the Coast to Coast walk. Sue and Susanna give their apologies. They're not contracted for today, so quite sensibly, they're not here. So it's me. So if you've got any specific questions on legal or anything like that, just email me afterwards and I'll make sure we get them followed up. So first of all, just going to introduce, so just a few statistics about the Coast to Coast. So the Coast to Coast was voted the second best long distance trail in the world, picked by New Zealand. I think, I can't really argue about that. It normally takes 2 weeks to walk, but it has been covered in the short time of 39 hours and 18 minutes. I think we should challenge Matt to see whether he can beat that. We've got Robin Hood's grave located on our section, apparently. Um, it's the shortest infrastructure delivery time of any national trail that Natural England have established. So it's 3 years. And for us, it was particularly short because the team wasn't really established until about 10 months into that delivery time. So we've really only been going for about 15 months now as a full team. And an interesting fact is that the last 2,000-foot contour is crossed on the walk at White Mossy Hill, and that's the last kind of time you'll be above that 200-foot level as you drop down across towards the moors. So I just wanted to kind of run through like a bit of a history of the Coast to Coast path delivery. So obviously it all started in 1973 when Wainwright pulled the walk together and published his pictorial guide. And then obviously it grew in popularity. Natural England prepared and submitted the route to be developed as a national trail proposal, and that was established that was passed into 2022. And there's everybody celebrating the national trail with Rushi, who obviously was a big supporter of this particular trail, and I think was very fundamental in achieving that national trail status. And then we move forward. So there we are. There's the team. We still don't have a different team photograph. That was taken on our first site visit, and it's a terrible photograph. And we still haven't managed to get a photograph of all three of us in one place again. That's on top of Gunner Side, for those that recognise that. So we were brought together as a team in November 2023. Then our first major infrastructure programme was White Mossy Hill. So that started in the summer in 2024. So 1st of August, we started lifting. Our first diversion order, which was Ramps Home, that was achieved in the autumn of 2024. Our first sign post was put up also in the autumn of 2024. And then we're coming on to some recent completion. So this was completed just previous to the end of this financial year, and that's some improvements to Eastgill Bridge near Keld. And then this is hot off the press. They are actually working on this bridge today, and this is the footbridge installation for White Mossy Hill. And then moving on to the futures for this final year, we're looking at the National Trail being launched at the maybe the end of this financial year, early into 2026. We haven't got exact dates yet, but we know it's going to be early in next financial year, so probably April, May 2026. And the word from Natural England is that we will be looking to establish a national trail partnership, and it be managed in a similar format to how other national trails are managed. So just a quick run over of the whole route in our area. So we drop in at Ondale across Ravensworth Fell, which also contains Robin Hood's grave for those that are interested, onto Crosby Garrett Fell before dropping out of our border and into Kirby Stephen. And then we come out of Kirby Stephen up to the Nine Standards and we drop back into the park at White Mossy Hill, drop over that to Nade Gill, Ravenseat onto Keld. And then from Keld, the route splits. So we are really the only area with a significant kind of two route option. So we have the higher route and we have the lower route. So the pop out map at the bottom here, this is the lower route and it's located here on across our area. So it splits at Crackpot Hall. So the higher route cuts across Gunnerside Moor, taking in the industrial heritage, while the lower route follows the River Swale, and they both rejoin at Reeth. And then from Reeth, it meanders to Mask through Applegarth Wood and leaves the park just prior to Richmond. So I wanted to pick a couple of what I thought was kind of interesting or challenging aspects of the walk that we have been, or the path that we've been dealing with. So Crosby Ravensworth Fell's been really, really interesting. We previous to the team coming on board, there was really positive discussions with the landowner here around it being established. It's quite a large section of the route, as you can see. So really it runs from here all the way down here to here. And we thought it was in the bag, a creation agreement. And it got delayed and delayed and delayed, and we've had to review that now. And I think it's going to be moving to a creation order. And because it's going to be moving to creation order, it's going to be done as a bridal way. So that's what we're looking at undertaking. And I think this is a really interesting one to reflect on. We had loads of great work by our land agent who was acting on our behalf pre to the team, and then it was handed over to ourselves. And I think that's caused some challenges as well as some real positives about how this has kind of played out. We do it slightly differently, perhaps. And I think as well, because when the team was established, we were already a bit like behind. So we kind of let it rolling, think it was all sorted, and it was only in autumn when we all came back together and really chased their land agent again, did we realise that they were no longer willing to move forward with the creation agreement. It's probably going to put this one past. We suspect that there will be an objection to this one. So we're in, again, it's that stakeholder management here. We're talking to Natural England about how we're going to manage that. And we also obviously trying our hardest to work with the landowner to get a really positive resolution here for everybody involved. But because also as well, we're going to bridleway creation. We've been out on site with Ian and Sarah to talk about the impact of widening the footpath to 4 metres and if there's any concerns there. Fingers crossed the site visit went well, and we do think we can go for bridleway across this route. So it's quite an interesting one thinking about delivery timescales and costs, particularly in this what is a time limited infrastructure programme. And so it's really thinking about that, and with reflections, I think we should have kind of pulled together. So it's quite an interesting one, and we're going to see how it plays out. We've still got hope we might be able to get it without going to order, but we're just going to wait and see. So, gun aside again, this has been a really interesting legal diversion that we've been working on. Louthwaite Me, which I can never pronounce, flows down here, and we've already secured that. So that public right of way there has now been diverted onto this water line. And we're just looking at how we are going to take this coast to coast routes. The black line is what's being designated by Natural England as the coast to coast trail. But as time's gone on and we've been out, and we've all, me, Matt, Michael, Sue and Suzanne have been out a number of times now, we're looking at also how we can develop the broader access to this route. And one of the options is, and originally the bridle width runs up here, it's not on this map, but there is a ford crossing further up, and we thought originally that bridleway uses that, but it's become very obvious it's in a poor state of repair. So what we're potentially looking at doing, this is the bridge, I'll talk about this in a minute. So what we're looking at possibly doing is diverting this bridleway here across a location which we think suitable for a natural ford, and then up this bank to link with this bridleway here, which although it's you could say that there isn't a bridleway here, it's got real potential to improve that crossing point for a broad range of users. Natural England are supportive of this, and also to open up wider routes and several nice link routes going up from Gunnerside and crossing for a broader use of users. The footpath, we're hoping, will still be created across the slab bridge or the clapper bridge that's located here. Now, these are the pictures of the Clapper Bridge, and as you can see, it's of non-standard construction. And we're in ongoing discussions at the moment about the adoption of this bridge and the works that we will need to do it to get that adoption undertaken. And I think this is it's one of those games about balancing the time constraints against when we're delivering things. And to get this moved forward, we've had really good support, I think, from Historic England, who are willing to look at installing a handrail potentially, or replacing the stone flag if it's found to be not structurally sound. But again, here I'm thinking, well, we need to get those reports done, we need to get them processed, and again, we're in a time limited annual budget, which is always a bit tricky to manage when you're thinking, I've got to get the spend out by a certain door, and then I may need to start spending on new things before I've got the grant offer. So I think that's something as the organisation moves to project based, that you think you've got to think not just about what we can achieve, but how we're going to achieve it and when we're going to achieve it. But we are hopeful that we can get this bridge adopted, and so we would end up, instead of having one single route, we'd end up with a braided section here, both adopted as the coast to coast path, which I think would be a really good outcome for this route and would really benefit a wider amount of users, and it would not just footpath. And I think again that kind of illustrates, I suppose we have taken a pause, we've gone slightly slower on this, but I think again it's reflecting the ability of project funding to deliver that wider benefit as well, and not necessarily just impact the coast to coast, but look at how we can encourage greater usage of the wider network. So we had a team meeting at the end of the financial year, a bit of a moment to take breath and consider what we've achieved. And I think we did a brainstorm about kind of team highlights, and I just wanted to bring some of them up now because I think it's a good reflection of the work that we've been involved in as a team. So White Mossy Hill, this could go as my highlight and my most stressful moment, I think. But getting the flags up there at before the nesting season and get them all flown up ready for installation, and that phase 2 of infrastructure work starting on the 1st of August was an absolutely huge effort from everybody involved, from our team to the Rangers, Matt and Michael, to the legal team. I mean, absolutely fantastic, and it shows just what can be achieved with a bit of pressure. And I had some interesting stories of becoming a second-hand flag dealer, but we did get our hands on the materials, so that's definitely got to go down as a highlight. I think what's been great about this project really is the cross-departmental working and sharing. So that photographs from a training session that we paid for. Craig Grimes came in to talk about accessibility of routes. And I think for me personally, it really made me question what I thought was and wasn't accessible. And I've already really started to reflect on some of the routes that we're choosing and just thinking about how we can make them, if not accessible immediately, future-proof them so that as technology comes on, they will become accessible. And that was a really great day in the Rangers team meeting, and other members of the team and broader in the National Park Authority as well. So that was really great. But we've had lots of opportunities. Some of you have been up on the team away days in autumn, and that was great having people up on site and being so enthusiastic, and it's just really nice for the team to share that knowledge and skills. We've got really great stakeholder relationships, I think, particularly with Natural England, which has helped me to navigate White Mossy Hill and losing suppliers, getting new suppliers, and then renegotiations of funding. And I think it's so important to build those relationships and that sense of trust between us as a delivery agent and those that are funding that work. And I'm hoping we've done it quite successfully on this project, and hopefully that'll lay a really good ground moving forward for potentially the park then being involved with the future maintenance of the coast to coast. New diverted public rights of way. So obviously our team was a bit late into the delivery of this, and Sue and Susanna have been doing fantastic work. We've now got, as I scroll down my notes, I'm trying to find. We've got 5 diversions completed, and we've got a further 7 path creation agreements and 6 diversion orders expected to be confirmed very shortly. And a big, huge relief is White Mossy Hill, which is literally with the solicitors to be signed. So that'll be absolutely fantastic. Then this here again, talking about we've been able to secure improvements for all users. So this bit of flagging here was on the lower part of Reef. It was actually part of the new diversion that Sheila and Michael worked on together, where the river's been eating into the bank. However, where the usage has been so high from coast to coast, but a lot of local community members use this, as well as walkers that are setting off from Reef for just short day walks, and it just become an absolute bog. And we had an opportunity with some underspend at the end of the year to do this flagging works and really secure that route for all users, and so we were able to do that. So just thinking about, moving forward and the next steps really. So April, we're in April now, so we're just continuing this year with the legal and infrastructure program. So we've got in the infrastructure this year, obviously finishing off White Mossy Hill. I haven't listed it there, can't believe that. Naygill, we've got at least 4 new water crossings to put in at Naygill. We've got Kelcart Bridge. It needs some remedial works, which I'm hoping will be on site quite shortly. Tarnmoor resurfacing works, and then we've got some works at Cringley Bottom and Gunnerside, depending on the outcomes of those discussions about the path and the exact legal route to be defined. So August, construction, there's White Mossy Hill, I knew I'd put it in. So construction works resume on White Mossy Hill. We'll have additional airlifts starting in August, just taking off fuel cubes and some of the materials. And then we'll be looking for them to run between 2.5 months, 3 months, and that should complete all the surfacing works. Will be the last section because Westmoreland and Furness have can continue with their laying of their flags, because there's areas at Triple SI. So Dave was telling me they're going to complete before us. Not that it's a race, not that it's a race or a competition. And then October, we're going to review the programme, outstanding actions. I'm also going to look at the budgetary review. Again, this is an annual process. There's no money after March. That's the end of this kind of phase of the works. But Natural England are asking, acknowledging that this is a very short delivery time frame for any works that may go on beyond that end of that infrastructure delivery time, particularly on the legal works if we have to take some to PINS, Planning Inspectorate. And also we're hoping to work with Rachel and the parish volunteers to undertake the parish surveys. So the coast to coast sections were taken out of the parish survey this year, and we're going to be hoping doing that work in the autumn so that we can ensure that our GPS locations and everything are all right on our QGIS kind of mapping, so that when we hand those shapefiles back to Natural England, that we know that they're correct, and also that our records are correct for ongoing management reasons. Oh, and then January, March will be completion of all the works are outstanding that we can complete, capture learning. We'd like to do an evaluation report, final claim, and close down the project. And then April 2026, National Trail launched, and the National Trail Partnership will hopefully be established. And that's it. Hopefully that's of some interesting. I don't know if we've got time to take questions now, if anybody's got any questions, but I'm happy to take them.
Thank you, Angela. That was really fascinating. Well, I said that was surprising my voice. I didn't mean to. That was really, really interesting. And apologies, I didn't mute my mic, so you and others will have heard me snorting, sniffing, and what have you. That's really hopeless of me. There is time for some questions. I've just got a couple, just to kick this off if I can. One was the flagstones around Reeth. Uh, have those gone on the Swale Trail? So they're on the southern side of the river where the Swale Trail goes at the moment. And how long are they? Would be the first question. Not each flag, how long is the work in total? But more importantly, just in relation to the creation agreement, creation order process, without giving away any legal confidences, I just wondered why we'd been kind of merrily going along the creation agreement route and then suddenly it fell over and we're into creation order route. Whether there was something specifically behind that?
Um, I'll do the order first. I think it's a difficult one, really. I think I'll probably have a chat with you in the office, but yeah, we thought we had a creation agreement. We'd sent the paperwork, a fee had been agreed on, and then I think there was some politics that we have unfortunately got involved, not us, but has kind of impacted what we're doing, and the landowners become a bit nervous. And when we looked through all the exact kind of timeline of communications, um, there had been a communication about a permissive route, even though we'd made it clear over and over again that a permissive route wouldn't be acceptable for that length of the coast to coast path. We needed to be legal. And I just think it hadn't, the landowner just kept kind of saying, yes, we'll do it, kind of, and then when it came down to it, they changed their mind. And as I say, I don't think it was all down to us. It was, and I know that other authorities have had similar problems. We are hoping, Sue's still looking on the bright side of life, as she always does. We're hoping that potentially when they are faced with the reality of the choice between going for a creation order as a path, which is what they were originally indicating they were happy with, and a creation order as a bridle where they may go back to the creation agreement. But it really depends on what advice their legal give, how they feel they can fight it, and all that kind of thing, or whether they're even going to object. We just don't know really at the moment. We have good communication with the land agent, so as I say, we're still trying to hopefully work through that. I think some of it was just that handover process as well, because we came in quite late as a team, and the land agent had found some communication, and when she'd gone back and rechecked, it was a bit ambiguous, and that maybe hadn't been picked up by us. We might have pushed it a bit more. We thought it was all sorted. So a number of issues really. But yeah, hopefully we're still kind of hoping, but I suspect it will go to an order. And if you want to know more, I'll have to talk to you out of this meeting. Reeth, it's about a 25-metre section. It's not long. It's on actually Reeth side. It's where we've done the tree planting to stabilise the bank. So just down from the bridge there. So it's not on the Swale Trail's on the other side, I think, isn't it? So yeah, it just got absolutely. It's at the bottom of base of a hill, and it was just a muddy quagmire basically. Just had no drainage on it, and I think it was about 2 inches, 3 inches in mud. And because people, it's got fencing each side, people weren't able to braid around it, so it just got worse and worse and worse. So we had the opportunity to do it, and we did it, and I think it'll really help protect that section of the footpath.
Thanks, Angela. That's really helpful. I've got no hands up for any other questions, so thank you for that. That's very much appreciated. And we will talk, I'm sure, in the office a little
Yeah,
later about
yeah,
some of these issues.
yeah.
So, can I now introduce uh, Kiri and Victoria? They're going to talk about some of the green social prescribing projects that we're involved in as an organisation. I think this is really pertinent in terms of timing because we've had quite a lot recently of we've had quite a lot, and we are planning to have even more discussions with a whole range of bodies on this subject, from the Department of Health and Social Care through to local authorities, into the working groups, just about developing and upscaling our health and well-being delivery more generally within national parks. So, Kiri, Victoria.
Here we go. Right. Hello, David, can you just confirm if you can see the slideshow?
I can. It's very
That'll
nice.
be- Okay, fab. Well, I mean, Angela set the bar quite highly with those slides. Aren't going to be quite as exciting, but hi, yeah, so I'm Kiri and this is Vic, and we're both here today to talk to you about all the work that we've got going on around social prescribing and bits of our health work as well. So first slide, it's good to know. So yeah, what is social prescribing? It's quite a new area of work for the authority and for national parks in general. So a little bit of a background to this, but social prescribing is where a social prescriber, a link worker, or a health and wellbeing coach, there now seems to be quite a lot of different names for these healthcare professionals, but it's where they engage with a patient to support them via signposting or referrals into support in their local community. So that's into groups or activities that could improve their health and wellbeing. So social prescribing was first introduced in 2019, and since then it's gained a lot of support across the NHS and lots of different organisations in the UK, and it forms part of the NHS long-term plan going forward as well. It was originally designed to try and take pressure off GPs who were recognising there was a really high influx of appointments, especially linked to mental health, and also supporting the NHS to try and reduce some of their healthcare costs as well. So it's a non-medical approach, and especially for those things that don't need clinical professional. So that's kind of where our team and other community organisations can come in. And it's definitely come a long way in the last few years, and lots more surgeries are now seeing or hosting social prescribers. And we've recently just got one in Gressington, and there's other things going on in surgeries all around the national park. So social prescribing has kind of four main pillars, and they are physical activities, also arts and cultural activities, debt and other practical advice, and also nature-based activities as well. So as a National Park Authority, there's a lot of potential for us to work, especially to alleviate pressures on the NHS and with healthcare professionals in those three pillars, mainly around physical activity, the arts, culture and the heritage angle, and also green social prescribing as well. So it's estimated that almost a fifth of GP appointment time is spent on non-medical problems, including things like loneliness, isolation, relationship issues, stress, or things related to housing as well. So social prescribing gives doctors and other organisations kind of different ways to address these problems. Especially now we have an ageing population as well, people living a lot longer with lots more complex conditions. Social prescribing also helps to address kind of healthcare inequalities and try to support people who might be facing particular barriers in accessing healthcare, as it gives kind of different opportunities to engage with healthcare services. It can also support social prescribers to look at individuals really where they're at and address their unique situations. So looking at the wider circumstances that might be affecting their lives, that might be making them more unhealthy, like their living situations or their access to green space. And it can look at this kind of along with their other medical symptoms as well. So a lot of the groups that are accessing social prescribers are also kind of groups that would fall into our underserved communities as well, and the ones that we might be working with to support them to access the national park. So the social prescribing landscape, and the healthcare landscape in general is really quite complicated, especially for us as a National Park Authority. So based on our geography, we cover quite a few different areas. It doesn't quite map onto the healthcare system. So recently in 2022, there was the Health and Care Act that was passed, and that's when these integrated care systems were created. And a lot more of the kind of responsibility around funding for health and care services was kind of devolved, I suppose, and given to these integrated care systems. And there's also within those integrated care systems, there's kind of place-based partnerships as well, such as like the Bradford District NHS Foundation Trust and the integrated care boards that we've been working with. So these integrated care systems focus very much on kind of prevention, better outcomes for local populations, and also, again, reducing health inequalities. And they are kind of partnerships of local organisations, healthcare organisations, that look at kind of local need for healthcare. And the main ones that we have been kind of trying to develop relationships with more strategically are the ones that I have labelled up in the north of England there. Yeah, and as I mentioned, there's a bit of a challenge around geography and how we kind of interact with these different ICSs, but there's a few different things going on now at a more kind of strategic level, as well as on the ground with some of the visits that we're running. So yeah, this is just a bit of a diagram around, specifically more around green social prescribing. I just thought I'd include this because it gives a bit of an overview of what it is and how people can become involved. And some of the projects that we've been running in more depth are very much linked to kind of the green social prescribing angle and connecting people with green space in the national park for their well-being. And this is also where there's kind of a really big opportunity for us as well. It was reported in the Natural England People and Nature Survey that 89% of adults have now reported that they feel spending time outdoors is good for their mental health and well-being. And I think we all know that, especially within the authority, and innately know that as well. So it's really great to kind of see this area of work gaining a bit more traction. And it's, yeah, quite an exciting time to kind of see how national parks and the NHS can potentially work together a little bit more. So yeah, one of the green social prescribing programs that we have run is called Wednesday Wanders. So over a number of years, we've been trying to engage with social prescribers in different ways. We have run a few kind of health walks and things directly with social prescribers, but the referrals for those were really low, and it was quite challenging. So we decided to partner with two community arts organisations, one based in Knaresborough and one based in Skipton and Bentham, and they have people that are socially prescribed into their programmes. So this seemed to be kind of a really good model for us, because the community organisations themselves had people working within them that have sort of specific mental health qualifications and things, so they could manage that referral pathway from GPs and work with those mental health conditions and the people that come. It allowed the people that came on the course to have kind of wraparound support at the beginning and end, and they only signed up people that they thought it was appropriate for. So the people that came were those that were kind of ready to get out the house and join a group and start experiencing different things. So yeah, this project was all planned around the 5 ways to wellbeing. It allowed participants to be active by accessing and exploring different parts of the national park. It gave them opportunity to participate in a range of different creative and wellbeing activities as well, meet, socialise, and get together with a group of people, and also learn new skills, learn about the national park, learn about the cultural heritage and the landscape of the area as well. So the sessions lasted for 8 weeks. So it was about working with one group for 8 different sessions, which meant we could work with them in a lot more detail as well, and really engage them with different parts of the national park. So we did a number of different activities. One of them included a bird ID walk with Ian Court and the wildlife team, which was brilliant. Nature connection walks, forest bathing, They went to Water as well, and we sang the Water ballad, which was great, but lots of different things to try and improve their well-being and also their knowledge of the national park as well. So participants commented that they really liked being able to access different parts of the park that they aren't able to currently access without transport or access to their own transport. They also liked being able to hear about the different accessibility options available to them. So we sort of showed them how that they can book out trampers and took them to our visitors centres as well. And they commented as well that they like kind of learning about the parameters of the national park and which areas were near to them and how they could access them. And they're all, in Fiona on the call as well, they are all still using the Merlin app, and Bird ID has become quite a part of a lot of the sessions that they now do back in their community group. So that was really good. And kind of quite importantly for this project as well, we have had an evaluation done, which is showing, sort of gone into a little bit more detail than some other evaluations that we've done in the past. And it's found that for every £1 that was spent on the course, there's a £16.30 return. So overall, they found that the course itself across those 8 weeks, one session a week, and then the lasting benefits after engaging with that course, estimated a monetary benefit of around 258,000. So we're hoping to kind of share this information with NHS partners and national park officers across the health and wellbeing groups as well, to see if that helps us kind of develop these relationships and different ways of working with healthcare professionals. So that's kind of one way that we've been working with people on the ground. I suppose in terms of our wider health work as well, we've got our Nature Prescriptions project. So if we look at the people coming out on our Wednesday Wonders course as being ready to engage and come out with groups, this Nature Prescriptions project maybe focuses on people that are at the other end of the spectrum, perhaps not quite ready to leave the house or socialise with a group. So it's not technically social prescribing, but it definitely fits within that realm of kind of working with healthcare. And it's basically a calendar of kind of seasonal activities, and within each month there's also suggestions about how they can engage with the national park, different places that they can visit. And all of the suggestions in the calendar are very much around kind of nature connection and how people can improve their well-being by taking notice of what's around them. So through this project, we've engaged with lots of kind of teams of healthcare professionals. So far worked with 7 teams. I'm trying to think off the top of my head. We worked with some clinical psychologists, community mental health team in Bradford. We've worked with some medics in the Ministry of Defence up at Catterick Garrison as well, and they're wanting to kind of embed this within their model of healthcare. And yeah, it's very much about kind of teaching them about the national park, what's on offer, but also how interacting with nature, the heritage, the culture of the national park can be really good for people's well-being as well. So I think that's allowed us to kind of develop lots of new relationships, and then hopefully we'll be able to kind of deliver more things with them in the future. So I'm just gonna, oh yeah, this was a partnership project, the Nature Prescriptions, with the North York Moors National Park Authority and also the RSPB. So we've developed the calendar in collaboration with healthcare professionals and with the North York Moors National Park. And these are kind of all of the different surgeries and primary care networks that we've managed to engage with. So those in kind of the black writing are all across North Yorkshire, because this was it was kind of originally designed to be a nature prescriptions calendar for North Yorkshire, but then we're recognising as well we cover lots of different areas, Lancashire, Cumbria, and also West Yorkshire as well. So we have been working a little bit wider than that. I'll skip past that and then just pass over to Vic quickly, who's now kind of leading on our health visits on the ground.
So I'm Vic. I started in the Big Freeze, which was January. I'm the Community Engagement and Health and Wellbeing Officer. So I take out our underserved groups for visits to the Dales, and following on from the nature prescriptions training that Kiri has been doing with NHS, I've been working with some of the green therapy project officers, such as Joe, who I'm going to be taking his service users out for a trip to Malham, and also he's the person who has created this film, which I feature in, which hopefully, if
Going to try and show a
this
film
clip will
now,
work with sound.
and hope sound works. Can someone just raise their hand or something if they can't hear it?
Yorkshire Dales National Park. I
all
am
good.
the Community Engagement and Health and Wellbeing Officer, and for the last few months we've been working with the NHS about bringing out some of their groups to enjoy the real benefits that green spaces can bring to our mental and physical well-being. The aim of what we do with Joe and the NHS is to bring out lots and lots of groups, often from really urban areas like Keighley and Bradford, people who've never had the opportunity to come and experience the beautiful Yorkshire Dales National Park. And we help to kind of break down those barriers by offering a transport grant so that people can come out for free. We'll arrange the day, we'll risk assess the day to make sure that it's a really enjoyable experience, and that NHS providers and also their service users can then come out confidently to experience the National Park on their own.
So hopefully that sums up some of the work that I've been doing with the Bradford Craven District Trust, and because people have talked to Joe and found out kind of what I've organised with his kind of groups, then other NHS people have also got in touch, so I'll be taking out more of those groups in the future. I've also been working with GPs such as Jamil Shazad, who has been delivering training on rethinking pain, so he will be coming out with a couple of his groups as well to do some of those kind of training strategies out in the Yorkshire Dales. And Jamila in particular is interested in working with some of our rural communities to do some kind of work around long-term pain with the farming communities. What else is coming up? So we've got Wednesday Wonders Part 2, so I'm going to kind of reignite that project. Unfortunately, it's not going to be on a Wednesday, it's going to be on a Thursday this time. So if anyone has any good ideas on what I could call Thursday trampers or trailers, then there might be a chocolate egg involved for someone who can come up with the best name for that. So we're going to continue that based on some of the evaluations and the work that was already put in with Kiri. And also coming up is the Dales Fellbeing as well. So this will be an application to Sport England for some funding to hopefully support people in the kind of the physical activity pillar that Kiri mentioned before, helping people to kind of run, navigate, and an introduction to kind of being more active in the Dales.
Yeah, brilliant. And there's also, we've recently been involved in a bid to Bradford 2025 for a cultural social prescribing project alongside community pioneer projects, also Salford, the children's charity in Skipton, and the Wharfdale, Airedale and Craven Alliance, so the group of GP surgeries in the area, and that will be working with neurodiverse young people who are socially prescribed into those programmes, and very much looking at like the culture and the heritage of the Craven area, and then they want to have a trip out to the Dales with us as well to kind of embed that work. There's going to be a bit of a wider public messaging campaign alongside the comms team to try and spread some of the messages around how national parks are good for wellbeing more generally as well. And I know we've done bits like that in the past. Bit more, we'll be continuing to work with Catterick Garrison, also as National Park Health and Wellbeing Officers, hoping to put together a bid to have kind of a wider bit of research done across national parks to show kind of our impact that we can have on wellbeing. And finally as well, we're going to have a Masters by Research student evaluating some of our nature prescriptions and wellbeing work as well. So yeah, if there's anyone out there in the authority that thinks we could partner at all or work together on things, I know there's the kind of the Jewels of the Dales bid, which there might be wellbeing angles within that. But yeah, we would be more than happy to have a chat. And there we go.
Thank you both. Very helpful and informative. I'll just see if there are any colleagues got any questions of Kiri and Vic. I think that means it was thorough and you covered everything. I'll just say both in relation to Kiri and Vic's presentation and indeed to Angela's, if there are any issues, questions that occur to you after the event, then please get in touch with them. There are no problems about that. This session is recorded as well, so those of you that watch it back religiously afterwards, just to make sure you haven't missed anything, if there's any issues come up in relation to those to these presentations, all three of them, please get in touch. This really is just about sharing communication and information across the organisation. Okay, I think that's it then. So can I just thank in particular Angela, Kiri and Vic for their presentations today. Thanks to the IT team, my PA, for setting this up. I shall let you all go and I'll catch you all very soon. Take care. Bye-bye.